Coming up on this episode of One-on-One Sports.
The king is coming home.
Where's your chalk, man? I don't see any chalk. There's no point to do that.
Imagination.
Unnecessary.
Imagination.
This week, 39 players and one owner were suspended from the NFL regular season opener. And I've got a bone to pick with Roger Goodell.
Plus, with the U.S. Open coming to a close, we'll explore the state of tennis and give you all your football and baseball fixes.
All that and much, much more. And it all starts right now. As the Beach Boys once said, summer's gone. But on the bright side, One-on-One is back and raring to go. I'm Stephen Normington.
And I'm Preston Willett, and here are your starting five. The Baltimore Ravens released running back Ray Rice on Monday after a video of Rice beating his wife unconscious in an elevator surfaced. The NFL then suspended Rice indefinitely. Steve, should Rice ever play in the NFL again?
Unfortunately, as terrible as his actions were, he has to be able to play in the NFL again because they set the precedence that players can do terrible things and rejoin the league. Michael Vick, Dante Stallworth, I'm not going to sit here and measure which crime was worse. However, if you take someone's life, if you take an animal's life, if you beat a woman, those things are simply unacceptable. However, if you've established a presence that those people are allowed to be in your league, you can't just all of a sudden uproot that and kick someone out.
It's not about comparing different cases and stuff. I know you're not trying to do that, but it's not about comparing different players. He's just going to get a chance in the league because he's a talented running back. He's
three-time Pro Bowler.
Three-time Pro Bowler. He's going to get another chance in the league because teams just take chances on risky guys. Look, Dante Stallworth had 5 chances with different teams. Michael Vick got back with the Philadelphia Eagles and now with the New York Jets.
And if your talent outweighs the distraction, someone's going to take a chance on you. But an interesting thing is you have guys like Greg Hardy and Ray McDonald still playing in the league, although they weren't convicted.
Not on video.
Like Ray Rice, you still allegedly did this heinous crime, and at some point you have to punish someone.
I agree.
Monday nights are typically one of the quietest across college campuses, but Happy Valley was absolutely rocking yesterday after the NCAA now announced that Penn State's bowl ban and postseason ban would be lifted effective immediately, making them eligible for not only bowl play, but also reinstating full scholarships. Preston, did the NCAA make the right decision here?
No. And I'm going to tell you why. It has nothing to do with Penn State itself. It has everything to do with the NCAA. Grow a backbone, NCAA. You've got to be kidding me. If you're going to put the hammer down on Penn State, then hold up to it. Honor your decision. Just go through with it. I understand that Penn State should not have been penalized because it's not a football thing.
I completely agree with you, Preston. As someone who grew up 45 minutes from State College, as a little kid, went to Penn State games, I'm very excited. I'm very excited that Penn State football can once again come back and be prominent. However, what honestly disturbs me is that the Jerry Sandusky tragedy is sort of ending, and people are forgetting about this monster, this heinous crime, and it seems like if you overstep your boundaries, and the NCAA did not have jurisdiction to do this. They have certain jurisdiction if a school fails to monitor, but this was an example of a criminal, sexual, disgusting act. This is completely outside their realm. So can you really discriminate against that?
And I think the NCAA here thinks that they're helping out, and they think this will help their reputation, but it's not going to help their reputation.
Just like the other decisions this year, it drastically hurts.
They look weak. Hawks minority owner Bruce Levinson is selling his share of the team after self-reporting a racist email he sent in 2012. This comes less than a month after NBA Board of Governors approved the sale of Donald Sterling's Clippers. Steve, does the NBA have a racism problem? And if so, why?
I don't think so. I think these are two separate and completely different
Couldn't agree
incidences.
With you more. Couldn't agree with you more.
For Donald Sterling, he was blatantly racist. He showed no remorse, and he used hate language and ethnic slurs that have no place in society. However, on the opposite side of the spectrum, the Hawks owner was extremely remorseful. He self-reported everything that happened, and he seemed like he was trying to figure out a problem and not necessarily realizing what his words meant.
Yeah, I mean, Sterling's thing is completely different. This is a guy with a history of this. Levinson, this is the first time we've heard of this. Sterling, this had a repeated history of this.
And I think one of the problems, to be honest, was that he was placed in a situation, typically Atlanta sports teams do not fare well with attendance.
No,
and
they
he was
don't.
trying to use every possible conceivable way to figure out what was the problem and coming up with these kind of idiotic rationales behind demographics, race problems, trying to put the onus on someone else and not take responsibility.
The thing is, he doesn't have a history of this, but it's the way he said this stuff. I know his intentions, but it's the way he said this stuff that really bothered people.
No, it did not come off well at all. As sports fans, we tend to look at the bottom line, teams' wins and losses, often neglecting the economic impact sports have on a given city or region. This summer, the city of Cleveland welcomed Johnny Manziel and LeBron James, perhaps two of the most polarizing athletes of the decade, and debatably the most popular and marketable athletes in America. So with all this talent coming to Cleveland, Preston, and I know LeBron James, your boy's there, what does it mean for the city's economy?
It means big money, man. It means Money Manziel.
Money Manziel?
It's big money, because who is the most marketable player in all of sports, in all the world? It's LeBron James. You got to agree with me on that. He's the most marketable player.
Saying that LeBron James is single-handedly going to turn Cleveland's economy around is like saying he's going to bring unicorns and perpetual sunshine to the city.
It's
completely
exciting.
impossible.
It's exciting, though, because now Cleveland never had any sports to go with before. Now they have a basketball team with LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love. You don't think that's going to bring people down to the downtown area?
The downtown area, the metropolitan Cleveland area, is worth $113 billion. That's the annual amount of money that's exchanged. LeBron James, by extreme estimates, will bring in $500 million to the total economy. That's less than 1% of the total economy. It's not going to make that big of a difference.
I'm just saying it's going to bring in tourists, though. What did tourists have to go through before? The National Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Yeah, go watch some Aerosmith, Def Leppard.
But you know what? But you know what they have now? Rock and Roll Hall of Fame during the day. LeBron James and the Cavaliers at night. What's better than that?
The thing you don't understand is it's not like Clevelanders were wallowing in their own self-pity, burning LeBron James jerseys, crying in the ashes. They were going out and spending money
don't tell me they
at bars, hotels, different sporting events. Come on.
Don't tell me they weren't crying. The U.S. Open men's singles final featured Kei Nishikori and Marin Cilic. Both Nishikori and Cilic pre-tournament odds to win were 250 to 1. With this in mind, what's better for men's tennis? The continued domination by a few players, Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, or the potential emergence of a stronger field? Steve?
Preston, you know I love an underdog. More than anything, I love an underdog.
Yeah, you do.
But the big three are so competitive. Their rivalries are so captivating. As a tennis fan, I absolutely love it.
I'm so tired. I'm so tired of the big three, though. I want more guys to come up. I'm a tennis fan. I like watching some of those guys. But you know what would be better for U.S. fans, at least? Get a U.S. guy up there.
I'd love to see
some more challenge in the field. Because you as well as all of Americans, we love an underdog story. Every year, if you don't have a team in the Super Bowl, you pick an underdog to root for.
Oddly enough, those three players that we previously mentioned have been in every single Grand Slam final since the Australian Open in 2005.
I'm tired of it. We need more guys.
And as much as the next guy, I'd love to see an American. However, I don't know if it's going to happen. Nick Kyrgios is that young guy you have to look out for. Well, our first Quick Hitters is officially in the books, but stay tuned because after the break, myself and our panel of baseball experts will discuss what baseball needs from the newly appointed commissioner.
Over the summer, we at One-on-One Sports missed a lot. The Spurs won an NBA title, Brazil hosted a World Cup, baseball has been at full blast, and some guy moved to Cleveland and caused a lot of headlines. Now that we have some of our experts here to catch you up on everything that we missed over the summer, we have Nick, Eric, and Cam. Nick, we'll start off with you in the NFL.
Well, it's truly the sport that never sleeps, Preston. We go right to the draft. Davian Clowney goes number 1 to Houston. Johnny Football falls to Cleveland. Then we go players running amok all over the law. We got Ray Rice, Josh Gordon, Eldon Smith, and Colts owner Jim Irsay making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Roger Goodell coming under fire for how he handled that situation. It's the no fun league. If you dunk over the goalpost, it's a fine. 7 faces in new places. We got Jay Gruden and Lovie Smith headlining coaches changing throughout the NFL. Defensive holding, legal contact, point of emphasis, and our Seattle Seahawks looking to defend their title.
You good? You out of breath? Well, that was good. Fast and Furious. Eric, will go to you with the MLB.
All right, we'll start with the trade deadline. John Lester, Jeff Samardzija, and Jason Hamill are now Oakland A's. while the A's lost Yoenis Cespedes and top prospect Addison Russell. The Detroit Tigers acquired ace David Price in a three-way trade with the Rays and Mariners. Clayton Kershaw dazzled the Colorado Rockies with a no-hitter with 15 strikeouts. And check this, the Milwaukee Brewers have the third worst winning percentage in the NL since June 1st, and the Kansas City Royals have the third best winning percentage in the AL since June 1st. Madison Bumgarner hit his second grand slam this summer. So we missed that. When was the last time a pitcher had done that? I have no idea. And then finally, Vin Scully, the guy everyone loves, returning for his 66th year with the Dodgers next year.
That's great. We're moving on to NHL. Cam, what do you got?
Yeah. So when you're talking about hockey, you're talking about Stanley Cup Finals. That's right where we left off. The LA Kings took down the New York Rangers, two big hockey markets. The Kings won in 5 games. Then moving on to the draft, we had Aaron Ekblad going number 1 overall to the Panthers, Sam Reinhart number 2 to the Buffalo Sabres, and Leon Draisaitl. Got to learn to say his name. He's going to be a big player for the Edmonton Oilers.
It's a tough name to pronounce.
And then, moving on, we trading got going. A lot of familiar names and a lot of new places. Brad Stewart's a member of the Colorado Avalanche, as are Danny Briere, Jerome McGinley, Josh Gorge is a Buffalo Sabre, Jason Spezza, Dallas Star, Sam Gaudier is an Arizona, not Phoenix Coyote, James Neal's a Nashville Predator, Michael Dossetto is a Flyer, Ryan Kessler is a Ducks, Scott Hartnell's a Blue Jacket, and Dan Boyle is a New York Ranger.
Well, that's what happened in the AHL. Coming up, well, we'll come back to that's it for this first round of recaps. So coming up, we'll go over some more with the NBA and soccer.
Now it's time for This Week in Bad Stats.
Bad stats?
Horrible stats. Here goes. 132.
That's how many batters struck out 4 times in one game last season.
Wow, very good. Here's a tough one, though. 3 and 4.
No idea.
That's how many kids witness bullying. 3 out of 4.
That's not a good stat.
No, it's not, but it can change. Kids want to help, but they don't know how. Visit stopbullying.gov and give them the tools they need to help prevent bullying.
There are plenty of safe ways kids can help at stopbullying.gov.
One of the biggest stories this summer was the election of Rob Manfred, who will succeed Bud Selig, becoming just the 11th commissioner in the history of Major League Baseball. The appointment of a new commissioner is always a big deal. So we here at One on One decided to call in our baseball experts, Natalie Beach and Eric DeStefano, to explore the question, if you're Rob Manfred, what would you do to change baseball? So I know you guys have a lot of differing opinions. Natalie, let's start with you. I know that the DH is one topic we're going to cover, so let's get to it.
I would absolutely adopt the DH rule in both leagues. I think that'll speed up the pace of the game. You know, you have 9 hitters on both teams, so you're going to get some more offense, which makes the game more exciting and will draw more viewers. And with the interleague games happening every single day, the National League's kind of falling behind the American League, and I think they kind of have a disadvantage, or at least that you could definitely prove that the leagues are unequal.
I definitely think that they have a disadvantage. I would say it's the way you construct teams is so different if you have a DH versus if you don't.
The strategy
I don't
completely different.
see, the thing with me is I don't really care if the DH occurs or if it doesn't or if it
But
is
the thing
implemented.
is that-
I think that both leagues should just be the same.
Yeah, well, the reason that you would want to have the DH is the Players Association is not going to let all those guys lose their jobs who can play as a DH but can't exactly, be position players. So I
mean, in a way,
I think they'd have trouble going the other way and firing Nelson
In a
Cruz
way,
and
I'm
David
for
Ortiz.
implementing the DH in both leagues because I think it would increase offense, which I think is a reason why weighted on base average, which is essentially an offensive stat in baseball that's pretty important. It's the lowest since, I believe, 1972. So I think attendance and offense, I think they're somewhat correlated a little bit.
So is pace and play, and it's one of those things people need to start thinking about,
And
especially with the
people who
viewership
already
going
like
down.
baseball might think it's fun to watch the pitcher hit, but the casual fan,
I think to get the
not that
casual,
interested.
common fan involved, I think you do have to increase offense. So what I'm proposing is I think Rob Manfred should lower the mounds by a couple inches. They're 10 inches right now above the ground. I think maybe lowering it a couple inches would increase offense, give the hitters a better view of the ball, and I would move the fences in about 5%. So what that means, 400 straightaway
More home
center,
run ballparks.
it would instead be 380. I think more home runs. I think kind of a la the steroid era, which attendance has dropped about 3% or so, 3 to 5% since the steroid era. I think in order to get that attendance number back up, I think
Make more
I'm not
offense, make it more
advocating PEDs,
exciting.
but I'm advocating more offense,
Finding
greater
other
excitement.
ways to
Exactly.
create more home runs.
And one of the other
Absolutely.
problems we've recently seen is the All-Star game. You have people on the opposing sides of the fence. We're not going to delve into whether or not it should count. The All-Star game should count towards the postseason, unless you guys
I
want to.
think it should count because
Oh, yeah,
I think
let's-
that's the best thing about it is it's the only All-Star game that actually, has, a meaningful purpose. Home field advantage during the World Series, like people care about that. That's important. At least, two of the teams that will matter to them. So I think that matters. I think the All-Star game, Home Run Derby, like they draw enough viewership that maybe that shouldn't be the concern. But I do think baseball should try to find some new stunts. Hockey's done so well with the Winter Classic and the outdoor games, and baseball's attempts, like playing the opening games in Australia, just not really.
I agree
there.
with the All-Star game or the All-Star weekend or the All-Star week having more contests, but I don't agree it should not count for home field advantage in the World Series because the teams that you have representing MLB or baseball in the World Series, they have a small percentage of the players that are going to be in the All-Star game. So you have ultimately players from teams that aren't very good or teams that won't make the playoffs or even teams that do but don't get to the World Series
I'm so much more
dictating the
invested
outcome.
in the All-Star game because I have
And
I
interestingly
care
enough, the
outcome.
All-Star game is the highest viewed baseball game until you get to the AL or the NL championship. So you got to keep it. There are obviously a lot of problems that baseball must address, as well as the new commissioner. But that is all the time we have for this block. But don't move a muscle because Preston sits down with our college football experts to get caught up on all the action.
The first 2 weeks of college football season are now complete, and to say the least, it has lived up to the billing. But with every beginning of every season, people feel the need to react over every performance. Today we are in the overreaction factory where our college experts, Jared Kimball, Josh Markowitz, have cooked up their early season overreactions. Jared, let's start with you. What's an overreaction?
Well, the Thundering Herd are cooking, and they are back and stronger than ever. And my first overreaction are that the Marshall Thundering Herd will go undefeated, and hopefully that will get them a BCS berth. They only have tough tests against Western Kentucky and Rice, so that's basically saying like their schedule is very easy. Their offense is led by one of the best quarterbacks in the nation in Rakeem Cato, and their offense averages 41 points and 500 yards per game, so they basically keep them in the entire game, and their defense isn't too bad. They're very underrated.
Yeah, I think this team can roll through Conference USA. Shouldn't be a problem for Marshall. My overreaction is Texas.
Okay.
They're not going to make a bowl game this year. They got flat out embarrassed 41-7 by BYU this weekend, and quarterback David Ash is out indefinitely with many concussion problems. This team can't move the ball right now. They're 100th in total offense, 105th in total offense, 100th in passing, 105th in rushing. And their schedule's pretty tough. 4 more games against ranked teams, plus teams like Oklahoma State and TCU that aren't ranked that are still tough games.
Well, it's not the first time that Texas has been blown out by BYU. Jared, what's your second overreaction?
Mine is James Conner, the running back for the Pittsburgh Panthers. If you have not heard about him yet, you will by the end of the season.
Okay.
I think he's going to be the real deal and a Heisman finalist. He already has 367 yards and 5 touchdowns with a 7.3 yards per carry, and he already showed strides of being good. He ran 800 yards last year as the third-string running back. He has a great tackle breaking ability, and he's a really powerful back. I think he's a faster version of Andre Williams from BC last year, who was also a Heisman finalist.
I don't think he gets the touches to be a Heisman finalist. My overreaction, Amari Cooper will break all 6 major Alabama receiving records, single season and career for TDs, receptions, and yards. Now, for this to happen, he needs to have 91 catches, about 1,200 yards, and 12 TDs this year. But he's already at 25 catches, 319 yards, and 1 TD. The rest of the way, he just has to average 6 catches, 80 yards, and 1 TD a game. That's not too much
I don't
to
think
ask.
he can get those receptions with Blake Sims at quarterback. He's just not good enough. I know they don't have anybody else to throw to, but I just don't think he can get it.
Quarterback situation is a little unsettled there at Alabama, so we'll see if Amari Cooper can get that. But those are your overreactions. But this is not an overreaction. It's early in the season, and we have a lot to get to. Exciting games, exciting upsets, and breakout stars. But coming up next, Steve will sit down with our NFL experts. Don't go anywhere. We're back with the summer recaps, and I'm now joined by NBA expert Stephen A. and our football expert Ryan. All right, Stephen A., what happened in the NBA this summer?
All right, the offseason in the NBA was crazy. For about a month and a half, the NBA turned into the NLA, National LeBron Association. The whole offseason just took a pause to see what happened. We had the draft, Andrew Wiggins was drafted, and very swiftly moved to Minnesota. And I guess this was pretty important too. The Spurs won the NBA final, beating LeBron's former team, the Miami Heat.
All right, Ryan, how about the football? Big summer.
Yeah, you can't talk about this summer in soccer without talking about the World Cup. The whole country got behind the Yanks, the U.S. national team, as they went through, beat arch nemesis Ghana, went through to the round of 16, unfortunately got knocked out by Belgium. The German team, which was looking so good at the beginning of the tournament, won the tournament off of a Mary Götze goal, 1-0. That went to 120 minutes against Argentina. Then you go to the most interesting part of summer with soccer, the summer transfers. You had Luis Suarez with $127 million transfer fee, the biggest ever. He went to Barcelona out of Liverpool. You had Cesc Fabregas going from Barca to Chelsea. You had Alexis Sanchez going from Barca to Arsenal. You had Toni Kroos going from Bayern to Madrid. You had James Rodriguez going from Monaco to Real Madrid. And then you had David Luiz from Chelsea to PSG for a hefty fee.
Safe to say it was a busy summer for soccer, and the NBA the same. Well, we have recapped the summer that was in sports, and now we're ready for a more exciting season of sports. For more one-on-one coming up next.
Each year, Vegas comes up with their projections, which, let's face it, rule the betting world. But here at One-on-One, we believe we can do things better. So we'll tell you whether or not you should buy into these early season projections. Nick Markunis, Ryan Meisinger, join me at the desk, and they will put your mind at ease when you're throwing down a few hundos. So, gentlemen, let's start off with Peyton Manning. 55 touchdowns last season. Vegas only has him throwing 43.5 this year. Nick, you buying the over/under?
Got to go over here. I mean, only 43. Let's do some quick math. You know, got 16 games this season. Say he throws 3 touchdowns a game.
Which he did the first.
Absolutely.
Game.
That's 48 touchdowns. I mean, I think you got to, it makes sense. 9 times last year, he had 4 touchdowns or more in a game. I mean, I think that math is going to add up.
I think you can say that Peyton's going to throw 3. I mean, that's a fair thing to say. 43 touchdowns is a lot of touchdowns. That's something that's not a lot. And we think, yeah, Peyton Manning throws infinite touchdowns. I throw him for days. But he's only been over 43.5 twice.
Sure.
So if you think about that and think about how great a season he's had.
And
well, you also have to factor in what I think is going to be the biggest difference here is the new illegal contact and holding penalties. That's going to give him a lot of short fields to throw touchdowns in.
As well as other quarterbacks, but looking at it, Drew Brees is the only quarterback to throw for over 40 touchdowns in consecutive seasons. That was in 2011 and 2012. Well, let's move on from quarterbacks to wide receivers. Michael Floyd had a magnificent game last night for Monday night. They're projecting him as over and under of 1,000 yards. You buying it?
I will take the over on Michael Floyd. I think that he sort of gets freed up a little bit by Fitzgerald. So Fitzgerald, I mean, he was targeted a couple times last night in the Monday night game, but I think Floyd really benefits from having Fitz on the other side of him. And I think Carson Palmer is a lot better of a quarterback than people give him credit for.
I absolutely agree with that. Some issues here. I think your Fitzgerald argument, I believe in, but I think Fitzgerald, he's kind of on the tail end of his career.
Yeah, I would agree
He's
with
definitely
that.
going down. I think Floyd's, after last season, he's going to draw a lot more coverage this year. Definitely going to look at some more double teams. So I have
It still creates stir, though, because who do you cover? Do you cover the legend Fitzgerald, or do you cover the
You've
newcomer?
got to love him, though, in that Bruce Arians offense. However, let's move on. We're going to go to another young, promising player, Giovanni Bernard, Right now, he's projected with an over-under of 8.5 touchdowns. I don't think that's ambitious. What do you think, Nick?
I don't think I'm going over here. I like what I see from the young guy. I know 5 touchdowns as a backup last year. And here's the thing, doing my research, the Cincinnati backfield has averaged 14, 11, and 10 touchdowns from their backfield last 3 seasons. So if you do that, Matt, that kind of adds up to get to the goal line situations, get him in there, get some touchdowns. And he's sharing the backfield with a rookie, which I think behooves him greatly to try to get over 8.
Right, and I think especially in now's NFL, you never know who's going to split carries and whatnot. But I think Gio Bernard, especially, he'll benefit a little bit from AJ Green. They'll throw the ball downfield. You never know when he's going to get in the end zone. I think he's always a threat for the deep runs and the goal line carries.
And when you see the law firm back, Ben-Jarvis, Green Ellis leaving, it's very promising. Lesean Mccoy was a guy coming off the regular season saying, look, I'm going to rush for 2,000 yards, and it's not going to be a big deal. Vegas has him in over-under 1,400. I saw Darren Sproles, and he's looking good. I'm not sure if Shady can do it. What do you guys think?
I'm a huge Sproles fan. I don't think that's going to take so much away from LeSean's rushing because Sproles is primarily a receiver. Right. That being said, 14,000 yards is a lot, and I think that Lesean McCoy can do it all. I think he can run, but I think he's going to get those 14,000 yards from all-purpose yards. I think he's going to catch. I think he's going to run.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I think what really helps him here is that playing in the weak NFC East last year, all defenses in the NFC East gave up over 105 rushing yards. I think if you total that plus some other week of...
And just imagine him going into the playoffs being fresh. That's going to be huge for the Eagles.
Absolutely.
Another guy, Jared Allen, looked absolutely... kind of not himself really with the Chicago Bears. Yeah. Right now he's projected to have 11.5 sacks, and I think that's way too much.
I also agree. I think I'm taking the under here. I think, the first year in his new system in Chicago, 11th year in the league. Another big thing, he didn't play that much in the preseason, so he doesn't, used to the guys he's playing with. So I'm going under.
I'm going to take the under too. He's an old guy. I don't think 11.5 is not a lot, but I just don't think Allen's capable.
It's going to be very tough for him to move up to that huge contract. But fellas, you guys made some compelling arguments. However, I'm going to elect to keep my wallet in my pocket. Vegas, you're not getting any cash from me. But I digressed. After the break, Preston will rejoin me at the debate desk once more. Don't go anywhere.
It is no secret that the sports world does not take a break, but that has never been more true than this summer. Between the World Cup, baseball as usual, and a huge offseason for the NBA and NFL, there was plenty happening. But Steve, what was the most memorable part of the summer for you?
Well, before we get to LeBron James, which you'll do this in due time, and we'll just have to live with it, I guess. Let's talk about the United States men's national soccer team. The euphoria for soccer was absolutely immaculate. I cannot describe the palpable energy seen throughout the United States in bars, in town squares. It was absolutely incredible, and being caught up in that environment was so cool. And soccer just used to be that sport where you'd go and pick your 10-year-old daughter up from.
And you still do.
And I still do, or parents still do?
Your parents still do.
I guess that is true.
Unless you're not telling me something.
There's no way I can really recant that statement. However, I will tell you this. 24.7 million people tuned in the soccer game.
Yeah.
A soccer game.
But everyone tuned in to see LeBron go back to Cleveland.
I'm not sure about that. I'm pretty sure this had a higher rating.
That's statistics right there.
That's not statistics, because more people turned into this game.
Steve, there's statistics all over my paper. That's statistics. This is huge for Cleveland. You have no idea how long this city, this poor, desperate city.
I do know how long. 1948.
1948 with the Cleveland Indians. That's how long they've been waiting for a team just to even compete for an NFL championship or an NBA championship or MLB, anything. And now they got Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, Kevin Love. They have an opportunity to be the favorites to win an NBA championship.
I ask you this question. Did LeBron James teach you a lesson? Because the national team taught me a lesson, and the rest of Americans, for that matter.
LeBron did teach me a lesson.
We have always been, we have had such high expectations. We do things because we can. We can flex our muscles because, well, quite frankly, we're Americans. And finally, when we're the underdogs, people rally around that and they absolutely love it. And it's just one of those feelings that we're never going to really have again.
You know, the only thing that beats an underdog story is a homecoming story. And that's something that we all can believe in, folks.
Okay, is this Christmas or something? That's all the time we have left for this episode of One-on-One Sports. But if you missed anything or just want to watch it again, and I recommend you do, check us out on YouTube at our YouTube page at youtube.com/oneonOnesports.
Also, be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at One-on-One Sports.
On behalf of our producers and crew here at the show, thanks for watching. And always,
whose side are you on?
This guy.